A scammer tenant in Columbus, Ohio used fake identities, fake background information, and scammed landlords out of tens of thousands of dollars in order to get into a unit, delay eviction, stay there as long as possible, then moved on to another landlord and did the exact same thing. Now she's facing prison time, thankfully. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have quite the interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Columbus, Ohio. So I talk about scammer tenants a lot because, you know what? One of the worst things that you can do as a landlord is put a tenant up into one of your units who is not going to pay the rent. Okay, that is one of the worst things possible, especially one who might know the system, be a professional tenant, which is a person who knows all the rules and regulations. Even in places that are landlord friendly, they can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And that is exactly what happened in this story. So Ohio is actually a pretty landlord friendly place. It has pretty good rental regulations that benefit the landlord. Okay, so I don't ever talk about Ohio as being a place where, hey, landlords, I wouldn't recommend investing there. And I actually do know people who own properties in Ohio. But this case here is a prime example of, hey, just because a place is landlord friendly doesn't mean that you are protected. All it really means is that you can get these scammers out of your property a little bit faster. Okay, so yeah, this lady, she was using fake IDs, filing bankruptcies, doing everything possible to extend the period of time necessary to get her up out of the unit. And when she finally was evicted, she would move on to another landlord, use another fake identity, and then start the process all over again. The ultimate result, of course, being that she got to live essentially for free for a very long period of time, okay? Now, imagine that somebody like this, a scam artist like this, was operating in a place such as California, where the eviction process is super duper long and they have a whole bunch of extra tenant protections in place. Well, you know exactly what's going to happen, okay? It's going to take years in order to get rid of her. And I actually covered a story about, I think it was in New York State, where there was a tenant, I believe it was Staten Island, right, who basically manipulated the system and was able to stay up in this property for something like 20 years. It was ridiculous, and that's what scammer tenants are capable of doing in places where the landlords are treated like garbage. Now, in Ohio, they were able to not only get her up out of the unit eventually, they still cost them a little bit of money, but now she's facing prison time. And I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So first of all, would you invest in the state of Ohio? Okay, I'm asking this about all the places I'm talking about. I would. I think that Ohio is a pretty landlord-friendly place, and I've heard good things about it. Inexpensive properties there, decent real estate rental markets there. Okay, I think I would invest there if I did a little bit more research on the different areas where I could buy properties. I think that I would be okay. But, would you? Go ahead and put a comment in the comment section down below. Second thing, do you think that these scammer tenants, do you think that they're becoming a bigger problem? Or do you think that they've always been a problem, but there's just more of a highlight on them now? Okay, I'm just curious what you think. I don't remember reading nearly as many stories about this sort of situation just 10 years ago, okay? Anyway, let me get into this article. It's not a very long one, so let's get into it. This article is coming from abc6onyourside.com, and it says, Columbus woman used fake identities to delay evictions and pleads guilty. Let's get into it. A Columbus woman who repeatedly used fake identities and bankruptcy filings to stall evictions has pleaded guilty to bankruptcy fraud in U.S. District Court. Prosecutors say LaTasha Collins Ford, 50, admitted to renting homes under stolen or fictitious identities, refusing to pay rent, and filing bankruptcy petitions to delay being forced out. When the petitions were discharged or dismissed, Collins Ford would move to a new rental home and start the process again under a different name. So something that is interesting about this here is the fact that she was actually charged federally and not locally or, in the state. So, she's scamming these landlords using fake identity. Like, you would think that they would be able to charge her with identity theft. They'd be able to charge her with, just fraud locally. But no. The feds actually came after her because she was filing all these fake bankruptcies. So, in a way, this is good. It's good that, she did get caught, that she is facing a federal charge and she's facing prison time. But in another way, it's bad because the locals aren't doing anything about these sort of scam artists who are coming in there and claiming that they are different people and that they shouldn't be evicted. Okay, that's what sucks. Okay, they shouldn't have even made it up to the federal level. They should have knocked this out and threw this lady in prison a long time ago. 50-year-old woman, and she's playing this sort of scam. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Court documents show she carried out the scheme at least 3 times between 2019 and 2023, using 3 separate identities. Collins Ford faces up to 5 years in prison. Her sentence will be determined at a future hearing. And I doubt she's going to get 5 years. I mean, honestly, we'll see how much time she actually gets. I'm hoping that it's at least a year in prison for this sort of thing. Now, they say that she's done this at least 3 times between 2019 and 2023. I wouldn't doubt that she's been doing this for a very, very long time. And you just don't know. So many times, landlords, they will cut their losses and then let the person go. So you'll have a landlord, they'll have this problem tenant who isn't paying rent. Sometimes they will pay the person to leave. Sometimes they will work something out with this person. Sometimes the person will just go on their own. And rather than pursuing that money or trying to press charges against her, they will just say, hey, I'm just taking this loss. It sucks, but at least I got my property back. And I can't really blame them because when you're talking about scam artists like this, these people don't have any money. There's nothing to sue them civilly over. So, interesting situation. I'm glad this lady's facing prison time, but the fact that this happened in the first place kind of shows you that even in places that are landlord friendly, like I was saying earlier, this can still happen to you, and this is still a huge problem.